agreed last week to meet in Hungary to discuss ways to end the war between Russia and Ukraine. But after President Zelensky met with Trump at the White House to ask for Tomahawk missiles, the president announced that the Hungarian meeting with Putin would also include Zelensky. Now the Kremlin is downplaying the summit was ever truly planned. White House correspondent Karen Travers joins me now. All right, now what, Karen?
The big question, will there be a meeting? Can it happen in a couple of weeks? But for right now, Kira, the indications from the White House is that there will not be an imminent meeting between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. That was what the president had announced last week after he had that phone call with Putin on Thursday. He afterwards, in his readout, said that they had a productive call. It was 2 hours, and they had agreed to meet within the next couple of weeks. But there was a process that was going to play out first. The president said that there would be high-level meetings between the U.S. and the Russian side, and that they would be led, from the administration's perspective, by the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, that he would have a phone call this week with his Russian counterpart. That happened yesterday, but now we know that Rubio is not going to be meeting in person with Russia's foreign minister. It's not quite clear why that in-person meeting is not happening, but because that isn't happening, now there is no imminent meeting between the two presidents. You mentioned the Russians were kind of framing this a little differently. The spokesperson for the Kremlin says you can't postpone what was not scheduled. So it certainly doesn't sound like they thought it was as firm and booked as the president did last week. Karen, even last week, one of the questions went to the president about why he was doing this. Calculations over the last several weeks that was needed to have a kind of meeting like this. He didn't really have a good answer on why he felt it was necessary.
From a conversation to construction, let's talk about the other big news at the White House. And this is this massive demolition project going on behind you. Some people not really happy that the president's changing up the historic home.
Yeah, there is some pushback on the construction of the ballroom, and there was when the president announced this. People were concerned about what this would mean for the look of this historic building and the property here and the grounds. The construction is now officially underway. You might be able to hear it over my shoulder. I can certainly hear it. It is quite loud. The president acknowledged it this afternoon when he was having lunch with Republican senators in the Rose Garden. He said it was music to his ears. But there's also pushback, Kira, because it's happening during the government shutdown, and the city is ground to a halt right now with lawmakers dug in about funding the government. The White House, though, of course, says that this money is not taxpayer money, $250 million going to pay for this ballroom project. It's coming from private donors and also the president himself. He says he's kicking in on this, but he hasn't said exactly how much that's going to be. This is a very, very big project, Kira. We're talking about 90,000 square feet for the ballroom. It's almost double what the actual imprint is of the White House residence.
Karen Travers at the White House for us. Karen, thank you. Well, it's day 21 and counting of the government shutdown, and there's still no end in sight. Republican senators are at the White House today to meet with Trump as they pressure Democrats to reopen the government. But Democrats are unmoved, saying rising health care costs will bring Republicans back to the table.
If we don't address the Republican health care crisis in advance of open enrollment on November 1st, it will become even more apparent to everyday Americans why we need to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
Nearly 1,400 federal employees are in charge of maintaining the nuclear stockpile are now furloughed. Speaker Johnson issuing a warning just how dangerous this shutdown is becoming.
Every day that the government shut down, it is a danger to the American people. We're in a nuclear arms race with adversaries right now. It can't be any more serious than this.
For more, let's bring in our Perry Ressam. So the vote failed again last night. So are lawmakers even trying to negotiate at all this hour?
I mean, it doesn't appear so. We heard from President Trump speaking to Senate Republicans at the White House just a short time ago, calling on Senate Democrats, in his words, to stop the madness. He is comparing the shutdown to Democrats going on strike. And then Senate Majority Leader John Thune saying that Republicans are unified in voting to reopen the government. We have Republicans who say they will negotiate on ACA and extending the ACA subsidies once the government reopens. Democrats say they want to negotiate now. So right now, here they get in three on when they want to negotiate.
Well, the FAA is now issuing this warning that the shutdown is impacting air traffic control staffing in numerous ways. So is it even safe to fly at this point?
That's a great question. I think the question really is, at what time will it be unsafe to fly? Because there are these shortages at air traffic control centers across the country. Some of these workers are starting to call out. We have delays in Dallas, Atlanta, and Newark. These workers are being forced to work without getting paid. So now some of these workers who have mortgages, they have families to feed at home, they're being tasked with asking a difficult question of themselves. Do I show up to this job that I care about and not get paid, or do I call out, find a part-time job somewhere else to actually get paid so I can pay for a mortgage? So we also have to see at what point does this become a major factor in travel across the country, and how does that play into negotiations between the Senate Democrats and Senate Republicans, Kira?
All right, Perry Rustin, we'll keep tracking it every day. Well, $102 million in just 4 minutes. We now have a price tag on that historic robbery at the world's biggest museum. A group of thieves hitting the Louvre and getting away with France's crown jewels. Now, ABC News is taking you there. The first television network allowed inside the Louvre since the extraordinary heist. It was our chief international correspondent, James Longman, that they let inside.
Hi, Kira. Yeah, we are the first journalists given access to the Louvre since that extraordinary daytime heist. They took us just outside the Apollo Gallery, the wing of the Louvre where France's crown jewels are kept. We stood in a rotunda just next to the gallery. We saw the large, elaborate doors closed and barred. It is still, of course, a crime scene inside. We saw the window at the far end of the hall, which is, of course, the window they gained access to when they made this extraordinary raid. We got a sense, really, of how the security operates inside. The Louvre is still closed to visitors, but all the staff are back at work. We saw a chair next to the door, which is likely where one of the security guards would have been. They move around between these rooms, but security is a big, big issue. It's what everyone is talking about here in France. Was there enough? How could this have happened? And that is why the president of the Louvre will speak to senators at a committee hearing tomorrow to answer those questions. Kira.
All right, James Longman, thank you. So what's in it for them? The sale, the thrill, the mystery? Well, my next guest is one of the most infamous art thieves in the world. Miles Connor walked into the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston in the 80s and walked out with a Rembrandt. But Connor didn't plan on holding on to it, but rather used the stolen work as a bargaining chip to get a reduced sentence on another case, even getting a $15,000 cash reward for its return. And get this, he's the son of a decorated police officer. Miles Connor joins me now for more. Miles, it's pretty wild looking back at the video there from when you were first interviewed. Tell our viewers, how the heck did you become an art thief?
Well, I used to go to the Museum of Fine Arts with my grandfather quite often. And so it was through him that I gained familiarity with the museum. And he had a fairly large collection of Japanese swords, and so did the Museum of Fine Arts. And it was via the visit to the museum that I became familiar with the museum. And what prompted me to rob the Rembrandt from the museum was a remark made to me by an FBI agent who had arrested me on another charge. And he said, well, we've got you now, Connor. Let's see you get out of this. Take a Rembrandt to get you out of this. And with that statement, that gave me the impetus to rob the Rembrandt from the Museum of Fine Arts. And from then, it was just a matter of how to get the paintings out of the museum and then where to store it until a deal could be made. Because when something like that happens, immediately the police or the FBI say, well, we'll have it back within weeks. We've got our informants. But then when weeks turn into months and months, and they realize they're not getting their paintings back, then our attorney approaches the museum and says, we have somebody who may be able to return the paintings. But of course, it's a great risk to himself, and of course, he'd want a reward. So that was how I arranged for the paintings, for that painting to be returned.
So what do you think is up with these thieves in France? Why do you think they stole these crown jewels? Is it to sell them? Is it to hold on to them like you did and use them as a bargaining chip? What do you think?
Well, do I think they break them up and sell them as individual jewels? No, I don't think anybody in the right mind would do that. They could do one of two things: hang on to them for a period of time, and until they have an attorney approach the museum saying, we have somebody who may be able to find this, but we want a reward. They can do it like that. But the way it happened, I would say they were professional thieves that stole the jewelry. And then they did it on a commission by somebody else who actually wanted to hang on to the jewelry. And they're the people who you'd have to deal with, and whether they hang on to onto the jewelry for a period of time and then volunteer to have them returned. The worst scenario is somebody like from Saudi Arabia would want the things for their own private collection.
Understood. Okay, so here's what I really want to know is your dad was a cop. And I'm looking back at this video of you. You look like a very smart, very handsome young man, when you were sitting down in that interview. You came from a family of law enforcement. Why did you want to become an art thief? Tell me what was going on inside your mind. Were you ever afraid that your dad was going to come after you?
No, I wasn't. But I was afraid to be embarrassed when I break my dad. As I said, my grandfather was one of the patrons to the Museum of Fine Arts, and it was the impetus that set it off was the statement, "Don't take a rubber if you get out of this." And so that's when I made up my mind to steal the rubber. And was there any desire to not return the rubber? No, I always set it on returning the rubber, and that's why I say there's the hope that somebody will return these jewels in return for a reward, because certainly if they're not returned, then it'll go down in the annals of French history, if not world history, as the most despicable of thieves. And so, as I said, I think professional thieves went in and grabbed them, and somebody else commissioned them to take them. Whether it's somebody intends on just hanging on to them for a while and then returning them, or something worse, like somebody else who may have retained them to do this theft in return for cash, and they themselves will hang on to them. Let's hope that's not the case.
Well, no one wants to go down in history as a despicable thief, that's for sure. Miles Connor, you're a fascinating man. It was great talking to you. Thank you.
Likewise, thank you.
All right. Got to get to some breaking news out of California now. We've been told a U.S. Marshal has been shot and injured in Los Angeles. A law enforcement source telling us that it happened during an immigration enforcement operation. The shooting is currently under investigation. We'll keep you updated as we learn more details. Also straight ahead, memoir of a nightmare. One of Jeffrey Epstein's most vocal accusers shedding new light on the abuse she suffered.
When you're trying to take a study break, but you can't get your finance class off your mind, you can just ask Google to dive deeper into any topic. So you're prepared for whatever the class throws at you. Wait, you didn't save me a slice?
By suicide in April, but she's still telling her story in an explosive new memoir. Virginia Giuffre is one of the most prominent.
Domino's Best Deal Ever is back. Get any toppings on any hand-tossed, pan, thin crust, or New York-style pizza for just $9.99 online. Because when your favorite pizza and our best price come together, it's like TNT. Get it? Only at Domino's.
Exquisite timepieces. Exquisite timepieces. Exquisite timepieces.
Exquisite timepieces.
Your favorite watch creators trust us at Exquisite Timepieces.
Exquisite is a family-owned AD. They're an awesome AD. I've worked with them for years. I've bought from them many times, so I recommend them.
Exquisite is authorized dealer of, as well as 60 other brands or more at this point, plus a massive pre-owned collection.
And there's only one reason you're seeing this video. It's because the awesome people at Exquisite Timepieces. Exquisite Timepieces have been around long enough that people who know watches know them.
Shop where the watch community goes at Exquisite Timepieces and online at exquisitetimepieces.com.
But clearly, this is a scandal that is hanging over him, and he's struggling
trial. It would only come, in my mind, from the federal government.
Patrick, Brian, thanks, guys. And if you or someone who's struggling with thoughts of self-harm, help is always available 24 hours a day. Call or text the National Crisis Hotline at 988. We'll be right back.
When you're trying to take a study break, when you can't get your finance class off your mind, you can just ask Google to dive deeper into any topic. So you're prepared for whatever the class throws at you. Wait, you didn't save me a slice?
As America's most trusted university.
Like a man on the street. I'm trying to stop lying like a mum lie, but I'm not lying, but I'm laying on the
Every moment, every move, every step of the way.
Reporting from Taiwan as it carries out its largest ever military drills, I'm Britt Clement. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Guatemala's Mayan ruins, the Amazon, and the Congo, they are the last lands facing both challenges and successes when it comes to protecting our world's most threatened ecosystems, including the most beautiful national parks and indigenous territories. Now, our award-winning ABC News correspondent Bob Woodruff has been right there on the front lines, showcasing the conservationists and the dangers they face, such as cartel threats, illegal logging, and poaching. Now, Bob's Emmy-nominated docuseries Last Lands is back, and this time he's taking us to Central America as he investigates how narcos operate deep within the sanctuaries of national parks.
We protect the most beautiful thing you will see in your life. The dogs around the side of the road are about to be released.
This is the only building like this in the whole world.
If I lose this fight, the whole world will lose the fight too.
Okay, I'm drawn in. Bob Woodruff, great to see you.
It's great to see you too. A little action there, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you are onto something here. I mean, it's an incredible series, and now you're talking about the threat of these drug cartels and what they pose to the most beautiful places in the world. Tell us more.
Well, two different countries that we've done the story about. One is in Guatemala. That is certainly is one of those because the threat from the cartels, because the transfer of drugs near the parks itself, and El Mirador, which is a beautiful place down there. And then in Panama is the other country we went to, and that is certainly by sea. I mean, there's like two different sides to these stories: the beauty of it and absolutely the issues that are being raised because there are threats to them.
And you've mentioned these are really some of the most remote locations that you've ever been to. You talk about taking a vehicle over the muck for 2 whole days to get you to this area that you visited in Guatemala. Just tell us how challenging it's been even to get to some of these areas.
No, that's absolutely the case. When we were in Guatemala, that beautiful park it's remote, it's isolated, it's not easy to get there. If you had a helicopter, of course.